Hearing none, I'm now recording. Okay, so my name is Dr. Stacy Boyer-Davis, the MBA Program Director. It is my honor to be here with you today and my privilege to work with these exceptional students, the talents of which you will soon observe for yourselves. So what is the portfolio presentation event? In the final semester of our graduate business program, MBA candidates are required to prepare and present a portfolio of their work, 5 to 6 major projects that they have completed throughout the duration of the program. The MBA portfolio presentation is not only a showcase of our graduates' candidate research, ingenuity, and preparedness to lead organizations of the 21st century, but also a means by which students can demonstrate that they have achieved the overarching learning goals and objectives of the program, which are critical thinking, collaborative team performance, global perspectives, effective communication, and ethical decision-making. Today, 4 students will present their work: Michelle Kinnitz, Kane Sturgeon, Emily Hawkins, and Jesse Sherman. Each graduate candidate will have 10 minutes to present their projects and 5 minutes for Q&A from the audience. We ask for your participation at the conclusion of each presentation. I realize that you're all eager to watch the presentations, but before the main event, we must recognize several individuals. First, a very special thank you to Drs. Jess Thompson and Michael Crum for serving as faculty mentors for our fall 2020 candidates. Next, I would like to introduce our faculty evaluators today and thank them for their efforts and expertise. Drs. Brian Zinzer and Ahmed El-Nashakati. Additionally, let's have a round of applause for those in the Graduate Studies Office in attendance today. Perhaps Dean Lisa's here now that we're in the Hollywood Squares and I'm not looking at all the pages. She may be here, so shout out to Dean Lisa, Heather Pickett, Angie Rasmussen. They collaborate with the program directors, for the programs themselves, the magic behind the scenes to manage the holistic graduate student experience. So we're so pleased to have them here today. And please also help me to thank our distinguished and dynamic expert graduate faculty who offer immersive applied learning experiences and impactful research opportunities and challenge our students to soar to new heights and take the next steps in their professional business careers. Finally, to the spouses, significant others, family members, and friends of the soon-to-be graduates, your sacrifices, which I am sure were many, were absolutely worth it. Please take this time to marvel at the graduate scholars that your loved ones have become. Now, may I please welcome to the virtual platform Carol Johnson, Dean of the College of Business. She would like to say a few words before we begin. Dean Carol.
It should also be noted that there is a tremendous amount of effort to put a program like this together and to have such a wonderful MBA program. Dr. Stacy deserves a lot of credit, as do the faculty that teach in this area. So kudos to all of you as well. But this day is really all about the MBA graduate candidates. And so I'm honored to be here. Thank you for the invitation. Congratulations on your successful completion of your master's degree. I'd also like to say that even though our official graduation observances have actually been modified due to our friend COVID-19, we are celebrating your graduation and we're here to honor you. With that being said, each one of you should be extremely proud of your perseverance and your accomplishments. I'm just going to say, way to go. Hats off to you. You should go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live the life that you have imagined. You deserve it. I'd also agree with Dr. Stacy in that you need to take a moment to think about your individual journey to this moment. Reflect for a moment on how you got to this point. Be sure to thank those folks in your life that have positively impacted you, your family, your professors, your friends, your coworkers, and whoever it is that has encouraged, challenged, and or maybe supported you along the way, because they are part of your journey. So now we want to celebrate your amazing accomplishments. I can't wait to hear about all of your projects. It's such a thrill for me to be able to hear that. Go out there, change the world, make a difference. Keep in touch, of course, and let us know how you're doing. You're like we're very proud of our children, and we consider you one of the family. It is a great day to be a Wildcat, and congratulations, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Dean Johnson, for those lovely sentiments. And now, the moment that these graduate candidates have been waiting for, 2 to 3 years in the making. Their graduate degree goal is so nearly in reach. Just one small ground rule: if we can just stay muted while they're presenting, and then once they've concluded, then we can weigh in with the Q&A. And if anyone has any mic issues, please feel free to go ahead and type comments in the chat, and I will serve as the moderator there. I have a brief bio for each candidate that I would like to read before they present. First up is Michelle Kinnitz. So Michelle Kinnitz's bio is such. Michelle is from Menominee, Michigan, and began her academic journey with NMU in 2013. Hobbies include spending time with friends and family, traveling, and boating. Throughout her undergraduate program, she had the opportunity to be part of Phi Sigma Sigma, Greek Council, and SLFP. She began a management internship with Walmart in 2016 in Marquette. She completed her undergraduate degree in business management in 2017. Following graduation, she began her professional career with Walmart as an assistant manager. After a year of work, she decided she was ready to start the MBA program with NMU. Throughout the MBA program, she continued to work on her professional career. She was promoted 3 times, most recently last week, to store manager of Sheboygan, Michigan Walmart. Although she's not lived in Marquette in 18 months, she still feels connected to the campus and community through the MBA program and has frequent contact with classmates and professors. This has been an unprecedented year, and she's beyond grateful to have the support system of the NMU community. Her favorite moments in the MBA program include the time she's been able to work with her classmates closely on projects. Everyone has such different experiences and perspectives. She's always learned something new about someone or something. Now, may I welcome for her portfolio presentation, Michelle Kinnitz. Michelle, I'll stop sharing my screen so that you can share yours.
Could you just enable the sharing function?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. Can you see it okay? All right. Okay, thank you, Dr. Stacy, so much for that introduction. And without further ado, I'm going to get started on my portfolio presentation. So the first project that I would like to talk about is a visa case study. And this case study on visa was completed as a group project in BUS 590 Strategic Management with Dr. Crum in winter of 2020. Emily, who will present later, was actually a part of this project with me. The purpose of this project was to complete an internal and external analysis and develop recommendations for a company. Specifically, we used Porter's 5-Force model to analyze the strengths and weaknesses of the industry. Visa provided an enormous amount of information about their business processes on their own website that we used for the project. We also relied on articles from news and business sites. As a group, we made numerous recommendations to Visa. We recommended that Visa keep its current pricing strategy, continue to invest heavily in research and development, develop and implement an acquisition-specific team, spend more time and resources on marketing and public relations, and continue its strategic alliances with large firms like PayPal, but also consider supporting entrepreneurs and small business owners. This project was important because it allowed us to evaluate a very successful firm from all angles. We learned not only about Visa, but how to conduct an analysis using internal-external analysis. Okay. So learning outcomes gained from this project include leadership and collaborative team performance, global issues, synthesis, evaluation, and communication. Being that Visa is a global payments technology company, issues had to be evaluated at a global level. This was a group project, so we had to divide the work in a way that would be efficient so the information did not overlap or we missed a piece of the assignment. As a group, we had to take all the information we individually evaluated and bring it together to decide what the best recommendations for the company were given our different perspectives. Visa has a lot of information available, and we learned how to analyze the business in a short time frame and develop a strategic plan with valuable recommendations. Along with developing the plan, a very important learning outcome is how the plan would be implemented. As leaders going into the business world, we have to be able not to only identify opportunities within an organization, but also have a feasible plan for implementing that strategy, followed by use of control mechanisms. All right. So next, I'll talk about ethical and legal issues with advance notice of layoffs and plant closures. This research paper was completed individually in BUS 510 Business, Law, and Ethics with Dr. Vroman in fall of 2019. The purpose of this project was to identify and address both legal and ethical issues involving some business and legal problem. This was researched using a review of testimony from a 2008 congressional hearing on the Forewarn Act, along with 2012 updates to this act, but was supported from articles on impacted business like Ford Motor Company. After conducting research, I made recommendations to the 30-year-old statute. The act should be reformed to reduce the minimum number of employees to be subject to notification terminology throughout the act. It should be updated to match the current labor force. Details on what encompasses notification should be included as well. The government should play a role in prosecution of employees that fail to follow notification requirements and assist in making adjustment and retraining resources available to impacted employees. Plaintiffs should be awarded attorney fees and double back pay for violations. This project was important because it taught me how to interpret law as someone in business, but also identify ethically where the law may be falling short. Learning outcomes from this project include synthesis, evaluation, and communication. This project challenged you to research an ethical issue of interest, which in this case involved researching court case hearings and law. After the research was completed, you next needed to think about how the legislation could improve and what the new act or amendment should include specifically to make it better and ethical. As you were developing these recommendations, you had to think of it from both sides. In this case, the side of the employer and the employee. The biggest learning outcome for me was being able to support your recommendation with fact-based information and being able to comfortably communicate that or argue that. Synthesizing law in court hearings is different from case studies, articles, or even web materials synthesized in other courses. It involves an understanding of how a bill is formatted, amendments, and penalties. There's also a need for understanding of the branches of government so that if a bill is in a certain level of review, you can understand what steps are left before the bill is either accepted or rejected. Next, I'll talk about implementation or information system implementation opportunities and challenges. This research paper was completed individually in BUS 520 Management Information Systems with Dr. Kafizan in winter of 2020. The purpose of this project was to research a topic consistent with the broad subject of information systems. The purpose of this paper was to explore opportunities and challenges managers will encounter through implementation. This project was completed using research from the NMU library database, specifically no less than 20 related journal articles. The conclusion of this study is that the use of information systems in business is going to continue. However, challenges exist and need to be overcome to make implementation successful. Improved decision-making, greater collaboration, and increased profitability were some of the greatest benefits of implementation. Resistance to change, poor communication and training, dysfunctional technology were some of the largest recognized barriers to implementation. In large, complex organizations, decision-making has become infeasible without the assistance of information systems. The future success of many organizations lies on managers' abilities to successfully implement information technology. This project was significant because it involved the research of information systems, which is only becoming more important to the success of business today. Learning objectives from this project include leadership, team performance, synthesis, evaluation, and communication. I utilized the research from the journal articles not only to learn more about why implementation is an issue, but the benefits of information systems in an organization and how we as leaders in any organization can impact that. As a manager, implementation techniques are critical to the success of any strategy. Successful implementation involves strong communication and backing from leadership in the organization. Leadership of the new strategy includes communicating that strategy, evaluating team performance along the way, and recognizing a job well done. So next, I will talk about workplace deviance. This research paper was completed individually in BUS 530, Organizations, Structure, Behavior, and Human Performance with Dr. Stacy Boyer Davis in the winter of 2019. The purpose of this research paper was to further explore behavioral aspects of organizations and their employees. This research was completed using the NMU library as a database for at least 10 relevant peer-reviewed journal articles related to deviance in the workplace. Recommendations were made to moderate deviant workplace behavior and improve organizational effectiveness. Organizations can screen those personality traits to avoid hiring those that may be predispositioned to engaging in deviant behavior, implement training programs that focus on threats to well-being that often lead to anger and hostility. Managers may utilize goal setting and assign work that continually challenges workers, along with providing incentive programs. Managers must understand what motivates employees in order to help reduce the occurrence of negative workplace deviance and implement team-focused performance and reward systems. This project was significant because it deepened my ability to understand human behavior in organizations and impact that behavior as a manager and leader. Learning outcomes in this course include leadership, team performance, synthesis, evaluation, and communication. This course was one of the first times I had to find and synthesize research on a large-scale issue. There is an extensive amount of research available, but evaluating a great deal of journal articles to find the right ones was a fundamental learning as I began my MBA tenure. Relevant research led to the recommendations in this project that further developed my research and written communication skills. Like many of the topics discussed in this portfolio, the learning objectives are not just about the topic itself, but the managerial implications as well. The study involved implications such as motivation, culture, and human resources. Management needs to lead the organization to realize these implications, which is done through communication, strong team performance, follow-up, and recognition of a job well done. And the last project I will talk about was my strategic plan on CVS Health. So this research paper was completed individually in BUS 590, Strategic Management with Dr. Crum, in the winter of 2020. The purpose of this project was to develop a strategic plan for a firm of our choice. This project was completed through an internal and external analysis, evaluation of current strategies, recommendation of strategic alternatives and strategies, followed by implementation and control mechanisms. This was the most substantial project I completed in the MBA program. It involved research from 58 different sources related to CVS as a company and the healthcare industry. CVS is using its stores as a community center for its consumers' healthcare needs. In the coming years, the brick and mortar base will be an important wellness destination for consumers, helping to bring needed services to more people. Recommended strategies included international expansion, health hub expansion, offering of specialized diabetes services, and expansion of e-commerce. The acquisition of a healthcare facility was not recommended. This project serves as one of the biggest in the MBA. It required a very in-depth analysis of an organization with thought to new strategies the organization could take. This project was also completed at the beginning of the pandemic, so it was completed as we are starting to see organizations adapt to consumers' needs due to COVID-19, which made it additionally significant as CVS is an American healthcare company. Learning outcomes for this course included leadership and team performance, global issues, synthesis, evaluation, and communication. The in-depth research analysis of CVS led to consideration of international expansion. CVS was analyzed internally and externally with strengths and weaknesses identified. Porter's 5-force model was used to further evaluate competition. Current business, corporate, and functional level strategies were evaluated. The analysis learning outcome aided in my ability to analyze an organization with minimal background knowledge, which is important to have as a manager. Once strategic alternatives are decided on, implementation strategies need to be clear and successful. CVS is an organization that operates in many different segments, including retail, pharmacy, and healthcare benefits. The project challenged me to synthesize information from all segments to understand the priorities of the organization as a whole and how each segment worked together to benefit the consumer and lead to larger profits. Making the decision to expand into other segments needs to be carefully evaluated as the success of these expansions are tied to the overall reputation of the organization. So that concludes my MBA portfolio presentation, and at this time, I welcome any questions.
Well, good job, Michelle. I just had a question about how organization behavior impacted your career as a store manager at Walmart and managing people when managing your subordinates. So.
I will say it was so beneficial to be able to be experiencing this in the real world and really experiencing a lot of the real world scenarios that organizational behavior can bring, but also be like reading these research articles on deviance and all kinds of different human resource practices, and just kind of be able to think about the experiences as they were happening to me, but have the time and the ability to come home and actually like read research on that was definitely unique and beneficial. And I think it helped me get to the spot in my career that I am today.
Awesome. I'm curious how things is going during the coronavirus, and I'm sure supply chain is also impacted, right? So does it bring some stress there? Are you able to manage these moments as a store manager?
That's a really good question. So supply chain was definitely impacted, and it happened really fast, almost with no warning. We didn't anticipate our shelves to be empty the next day we came into work. So we did have to do everything we could in our control. Unfortunately, with manufacturing and your warehouses, there is a lot that is out of your control. So as managers, we had to not focus on that and focus on everything that we could control to provide our customers what they needed. If that meant as soon as a truck pulled in our dock and it wasn't the normal time we stocked it, we all ran back there to grab the pallets of toilet paper and cleaning supplies and everything that we had, and people be grabbing it off the pallets as we're stocking it. But it was really just, that was all we could control. So we did everything that we could on our end.
Awesome, good luck.
Thank you.
I just want to congratulate you on your ascent to store director. It seems like that's a pretty quick trip you've made. I had Michelle as an undergraduate many years ago, so congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Do we have any other questions or feedback for Michelle Kinnitz? Okay, thank you so much, Michelle. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Our virtual quiet applause, yes? All right, next we have Kane Sturgeon. And Kane, I will share with you so you can share your screen with us. I have Kane's bio to read. Kane comes from the health field, having previous degrees in clinical health science and radiography. Kane is a first-generation college student and the first in his family to go on to receive a master's degree. Kane's current role is in a cardiac catheterization lab where he works alongside the doctors to fix blockages in the heart and to try to prevent onset acute heart attacks. Kane has always had the dream of having a business degree and being able to use it to advance his career. His next endeavors would be in line with healthcare management and administration. He has really been throwing the idea around of going back to school, but maybe he'll see. But his hobbies include spending time on the water, boating, fishing, kayaking, spending time with his family and friends. Of course, COVID has put a damper on that, but his favorite MBA moment, too many to count, but his favorite thing to do is to laugh in any situation that gives an opportunity. He cherishes that. What surprised him the most about the program was all the people that he met along the way, as well as businesses that he was able to research and work with. And the variety of experiences that the program has to offer was, well, really overwhelming in the best of ways. So can we welcome to the virtual podium, Kane Sturgeon? And I'll share this screen with you.
It's coming. Did that come up? Yeah. All right. I guess I'd like to preface this with why I chose to get my MBA. I love people, so I like seeing things work correctly. But every business is very fluid, so kind of in the reason I chose my background of this presentation is because getting another degree is just another mountain to climb. It's another, check in the book. I am a first generation college student. So it was awe-inspiring to me to finish this and be able to present to you guys today. So my name is Kane Sturgeon, for those of you who do not know. My faculty mentor was Dr. Michael Crum, and Dr. Stacy also did a big part in that. So with further ado, I will get started. All right, the portfolio overview I have here. I did 5 cases. I chose 5 cases out of the MBA program that I think covers all of the importance, aspects of the MBA program. I come from a healthcare background, so it's very interesting to be able to turn all these business decisions into healthcare oriented items. All right, my first project I did with Dr. Gafeson and HI 501, electronic health records case. We worked as a team, my classmate Michelle Winters and myself. This project, in perspective, we had to choose an electronic health record system to work with a small medium hospital. So I have worked in the healthcare field, so I understand what the challenges are going to be from that, because I've seen 2 of the 3 that we researched. The basis of our research was validated in the theory that most of the electronic health record systems do not meet the meaningful use standards set by the federal government. So that makes it hard on hospitals when they're trying to transition and work on interoperability. The largest challenges of this project were the funding. They gave you $400,000, implementation, trying to find people to help implement as a system and buy-in to get the providers and staff to want to use this. And then the interoperability. So how easy is it to send health records to other hospitals in case of emergencies? That was my first thought. And then teammate schedules. Michelle and myself work different schedules, so it's very hard working hand in hand with somebody that works day shift and you work night shift and trying to figure out a schedule there. And then the primary learning outcomes for the electronic health record case, the importance of interoperability and technology. Being able to switch user platforms, I think, is a huge thing in today's healthcare force, whether it's on a mobile computer, a phone. You have to be careful with, data breaches and such. Team collaboration, both in the organizational perspective and the team perspective. Electronic health record implementation and provider buy-in. I've worked with a lot of doctors, and they want what they want because that's how they want it, and there's no changing that. So trying to work your way around that can be a very difficult thing. The team perspective, communication for the course project completion, communicating with somebody that you know knows a lot more about business than you do is kind of hard, especially when you're first starting out the program. But we work through it, and then project planning, using the budgeting, implementation, and continued monitoring throughout time after the implementation was through. And then my second case that I chose was the Rosetta Stone case in Dr. Raham's class. It was a partner group project with Jacob, Philip, Tony, and myself. We had to go through the pros and cons of going public after the 2008 recession and figure out why or why not they should develop into the public market. So our research methodology was based on effectively utilizing the market multiples approach, as well as the discounted cash flows, where we calculated the WACC, the EBITDA, evaluating their IPO valuation, considering their company hyping growth after that recession. And then the continuation of current strategies. Our conclusion came to be that we think they could have made more money waiting. Sometimes waiting is the best thing you can do. And then the primary learning outcomes of this case were effective communication between group members. We had a group member in a different time zone across in another country. So it was hard working and finding a good time to work for them. Decision-making methods. We went through and did a lot of research and analysis on that company and realized that that's when they were growing exponentially. So we said if they were to go public, they would be very disappointed with themselves. And I'm sure their shareholders would have been as well. And then we used the application of business analytics and the ability to comprehend data. Having the ability to comprehend data and use business analytical skills in this finance class really helped me grow through my MBA. So that was how that turned out. Project number 3, the strategic plan. Like Michelle said, this is by far the largest project I think I've ever done on the Stryker Corporation. So I made it healthcare oriented again. They are actually based out of Portage, Michigan, down by Kalamazoo. They're a medical device and equipment manufacturing company. I chose this company because, kind of like Michelle said on the CVS case, we started doing this during COVID. So they were innovating their products they had to fit the needs of COVID patients. So like they made a new bed that, was able to set them up and have a computer device on the end to be able to monitor them without actually having to go in the room and such. We worked through the internal and external analysis, a pestle analysis, the Porter's 5 forces, went through the VRIO workup, and then made strategic recommendations on how they could innovate and spread, as they're already a multinational company. But the way they could innovate and expand with mergers and acquisitions, I felt was very important. And then the primary learning outcomes of that case were the international business implications. I learned a lot about international business and how they do business overseas and how they innovate and how they choose where they go. It's very strategic. I studied their growth strategies, moving into emerging markets. So they go where they're needed and sometimes where they're wanted, I guess is what it comes down to. Worked on political, global, economic, societal differences. The ethical decision-making, I think ethics comes into play really huge in the healthcare field. So being able to manage people as well as making the right decision for the organization can be a hard thing, especially when they're expanding places that there isn't a market. So they're going to be the one and only. And the importance of corporate culture, mission, and vision statements. Having higher ups understand and I would say like inhibit the traits of mission and vision statements of the organization makes it easier for the middle and lower management to inhibit those as well as and spread them to the workers. I work with some managers that are very difficult to deal with, so it's very overwhelming to see conflicting viewpoints. And then my 4th case, I worked on by myself in Dr. Gafison's class again on biometric access, past, future, and present trends. So I looked at how organizations are giving up data on accident, not knowing because of their accesses. If you're just using a password, or you're just using a fingerprint, or if you're using retina scans, how is it best to make them safe, like the Equifax breach or something like that, where your personal information is going to be put out to the public. I went through and made some recommendations, 3 of them, working on double authorization, the principle of least access. So only giving the people who need access, and behavioral traits, such as like your keystroke on your computer, how you can be analyzed and not even know it. So that was very interesting to learn. And then the learning outcomes here are the critical thinking skills. How could I make biometrics fit into business? And many businesses use it in their favor. And sometimes it just doesn't work out when they're not being careful, or they don't have the security they need. Ethical decision making, again, is it ethical to take somebody's fingerprint? No. Going through and analyzing and dissecting each individual situation was very difficult. Analyzing significant business opportunities in relation to biometrics. How can these companies make money off of what they're doing and getting the greater security? And then fostering adaptability and helping organizations excel in changing business landscapes with changing technologies. Technology is changing every day. And we talk about, in the healthcare field, we talk about robotic surgery all the time, as well as AI taking over. So I looked into those biometrics a lot. And then my last case I did for Dr. Brunswick, and I did a mega company analysis on Amazon versus Walmart, which are 2 just giant companies. So I went through their e-commerce and global expansion strategies, and I was able to make strategic recommendations on what company I would prefer or choose to work for, and why. Michelle works for Walmart, so it was a very interesting case to hear from her side of things. And then I recommended that they, for Amazon, to do like a be local, buy local thing, being able to offer something to the locals instead of a global expansion. And then Walmart to work on their e-commerce and the reasonability, because of third-party sellers. I figured that they were losing some money on their website because of that in my calculations. And then my primary learning outcomes, the global perspectives of both of those companies, and seeing what they have to offer and why. Critical thinking, understanding why I would want to work for either of those companies or not work for. And then ethical decision making, understanding that not everything each company does it may be right, whether it's with your information or with you being the consumer not knowing. I was able to make a very informed decision on why I would choose to work for Amazon over Walmart. And then in conclusion, the fulfillment of learning objectives. I was able to critical think throughout the whole program, collaborative team performance. I work in a team every day, so it's very, very important, especially for effective communication. Learned a lot of global perspectives to be able to see what happens outside of my workplace. I was very sheltered as a younger college student. So it was very interesting to me to see how far that had spread. And then worked on ethical decision making. I think my communication skills, my ethical decision making skills are far beyond what I thought they would be at my age. And then my future endeavors would be healthcare management or corporate development in like the pharmaceutical field or medical sales. I feel like those are very interesting. And then thank you everybody for listening. And if I will take any questions that anyone has.
So did I understand right? You would prefer to work for Amazon over Walmart?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Who? I will stop screen sharing.
You may change your mind. I was researching Amazon as a workplace this week, actually, for my final homework assignment, and it's not that great.
So sell me on why Walmart's better.
This is your presentation. I don't want to steal the show.
Well, I typically tell my students that, just because the company seems sexier doesn't mean that it is for career purposes. So I think the important thing is joining an organization that's growing. It's going to give you more opportunities. So.
Absolutely.
And I use the example, I am fortunate enough to happen to know Fred Turner personally, who was the chairman of McDonald's for years. And he started out working for McDonald's in 1965 in Des Moines, Iowa, as a supervisor of the grill. And, you know, he basically is known for the reason we have standardized operating procedures, and particularly in retail and service businesses. And had he joined a large established company like Sears and Roebuck or something at the time, he probably wouldn't have gone as far as his career as he did. So
I have a quick question. So what's the big difference between the Walmart and the Amazon?
The biggest difference?
Yeah.
Part of it was a personal preference in what direction I wanted to go with my research. I feel like the biggest difference would be, I don't know, I guess I based some of it off of personal and a lot of it off of data. Personally, I think the customer service, but I have never had to deal with Walmart's customer service. So I guess I don't really have a straight answer for that.
Okay.
Mr. Kane.
Yes.
Kane and I have a long relationship because when I was back teaching, a student of mine in a medical terminology, and he decided back then that this was going to be his academic trajectory. He wanted to get a business degree. He wanted to combine it with the healthcare field, and he's done it. So good for you, Kane.
I can't thank you enough, Carol. You're one of the primary reasons kind of talking me into it. Just there's no limit to your level of knowledge. Don't let anybody tell you no. So I appreciate that, and thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I just have a quick comment. Having you in my class, Kane, and doing the striker as your project was really interesting. I guess those projects are more work than I realized they were based on the feedback I'm getting today. But it's always neat when a student does a company that I don't know anything about. And I think because of your background, and I don't have a medical background, it was really an interesting read. So I know it may not mean a whole lot, but from my perspective, it's always really nice when someone does a project on a company I'm not familiar with. So for what it's worth.
Oh, that does mean a lot, because it just shows, like I was talking before, like the different perspectives. You don't know what you don't know, or you don't know people's pasts and what their goals and endeavors are. We actually use a lot of striker equipment. Funny enough, a lot of their medical beds we still utilize because they have a long life. I saw one last week at one of our sister hospitals that it was older than me, probably most of the people on this screen, I promise you.
Do we have any additional questions or feedback for Kane Sturgeon? How about a virtual round of applause for his presentation? Well done, Kane. Next, Emily Hawkins. Emily graduated from NMU with a Bachelor of Science in Biology and Physiology in December of 2016. In winter of 2019, she began her journey as an MBA candidate. She's incredibly surprised at how quickly this time has passed and is thankful for the lasting relationships she has made with professors and classmates. Her favorite thing about the MBA program is the culture of openness and acceptance. In her time in this program, she's been part of some very polarizing and controversial discussions, and the level of professionalism and respect she has seen amongst her peers has been inspiring. Emily is excited to announce that she has used her extensive background in the field of healthcare and disability advocacy as well as the training and confidence she has gained within this program to secure, and we won't really mention where, but potentially a job offer somewhere that's still being discussed. And we just can't wait to be able to let that cat out of the bag, the wild cat that is. When Emily is not busy with work or school, you will most likely find her hiking outdoors with her husband and 2 dogs, gardening, or in the kitchen, canning and preserving foods, baking, or experimenting with new recipes. May we welcome to the virtual podium for her MBA portfolio presentation, Emily Hawkins.
All right, can we see this? Can you guys hear me? I cannot hear anyone.
We
can hear you.
Emily.
Okay, perfect. All right. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Stacy, for that introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for being here. I am Emily Hawkins, and today I will be presenting 6 of my projects and cases that I've completed while being an MBA student here at Northern Michigan University. In an effort to save time, I will jump right in. All right, I will be presenting 6 projects today. 4 of them are from our core required classes. 1 was from an MBA behavioral course elective, and the 6th project was from a non-MBA course elective. My first project is an individually completed research paper. It was completed in fall of 2019 for BUS 510 Business Law and Ethics under Dr. Margaret Vroman. The purpose of this project was to pick a current and controversial topic in business and examine it through a law and ethics lens. This paper studied the recent law changes that made it illegal to pay those with disabilities a sub-minimum wage. I evaluated proponents and opponents of this sheltered workshop employment at sub-minimum wage. And the opponents of sheltered workshop employment genuinely felt that banning sub-minimum wage would give equal opportunity to disabled adults and help end the perpetuation of poverty. However, the majority of those in favor of sheltered workshop employment were family members of disabled workers. These individuals highlighted the fact that their family member, due to their disability, would likely be ineligible for community-based employment due to safety concerns. There are those whose intellectual and physical disabilities limit them from the possibility of being productive enough to justify a minimum wage position. Sheltered workshops for these individuals were less about monetary compensation and more about social fulfillment and a routine outside of the home post-education. These individuals were unfortunately overlooked in these legislation changes and have mostly been left without the opportunity to work now. In order to benefit all and not just some adults with disabilities, I made suggestions for change. The idea behind these recommendations was balance, encourage community-based employment at a minimum wage, but allow those with disabilities who prefer or maybe are only eligible for work within the sheltered workshop setting to continue doing so. This project required critical thinking, effective communication, and ethical decision-making. The paper was completed by analyzing a large amount of legal material and critically dissecting it to synthesize a scholarly position and opinion. Due to the controversial nature of this research, the project required clear and concise communications, both positions deserved an equal amount of representation. And then based off of my findings, the recommendations needed to be clearly justifiable. Finally, and most obviously, given the name of this course, the project required making ethical recommendations based off a polarizing topic. All right, project 2. This was a research paper. It was completed individually in winter of 2019 for BUS 530, Organization Structure, Behavior, and Performance under Dr. Stacy Boyer Davis. This paper examined deviant behavior in the workplace by exploring how to recognize its potential, and it also suggests means by which management can lower its chances of occurring. Research indicated that deviance was related to many different human traits, but was especially noted in those who showed low conscientiousness, agreeableness, and emotional stability. Research suggested that management can help lower this risk of deviance in their workplace by encouraging things such as ethical workplace culture and learning to recognize motivation traits and moral emotions in their employees. This project required critical thinking, effective communication, and ethical decision-making. The research for this project included an evaluation of a lot of scholarly material. All of the material had to be critically evaluated so that it could be connected and presented in a way that made sense. There was a large breadth of information presented within this paper, and therefore effective and concise communication was key to keep the reader engaged. Finally, workplace deviance is a sensitive topic that requires ethical handling from management. The recommendations made within this paper were presented in a way that encourages management to recognize and handle deviance ethically, as well as encourage a strong moral work culture that could help prevent wrongdoing from occurring in the first place. My third project was a hypothetical case study where my partner and I were hired by a hospital to implement an updated electronic health record system. This is the same project that Kane has presented, but my partner and I came to a little bit different of a conclusion. The project was completed in fall of 2019 for HI 501, Health Information, Technology and Management under Dr. Madison Gafeson. In order to meet the needs of this hypothetical case, my partner and I needed to implement an electronic health record system into a 400-bed hospital for under $400,000 within a year. We did a lot of research, and our research indicated that this was highly unlikely to happen, if not impossible, given the current cost of sophisticated information systems. So our recommendation then shifted to recommending our client use those funds to hire experts to update their current EHR system. To become meaningful use compliant, our client's EHR system needed security updates, and it needed a patient portal for patient interaction. And to complete this task, we also included a detailed project management plan and timeline. This case required out-of-the-box critical thinking to come up with a creative solution, all while applying scholarly concepts to a hypothetical situation. This is my first showcase project that met the requirement for collaborative team performance, as I worked with a partner on this case. And finally, we had to remember that the decisions and suggestions we made within this case would not only affect our client, but would also affect the patients who use this hospital. Therefore, the decisions needed to be made ethically so that we could ensure confidentiality for patients within the updated EHR system and portal. Okay, project 4. This was a paper conducted in a group in winter of 2020 for BUS 590, Strategic Management under Dr. Michael Crum. The purpose of this project was to analyze a company of our choice and then make strategic recommendations based on our findings. Our paper included a detailed company background with an internal and external and industry analysis, as well as an evaluation of current strategies. I won't go into this one too much because this is the project that I worked on with Michelle. So she already kind of covered all of our recommendations for this. So I will just go ahead to the learning objectives. This plan met the objectives for critical thinking, collaborative team performance, and a global perspective. There was an endless amount of information about Visa and its impacts on our world. So our team had to sift through all of this to create an easy to read project that was concise and to the point. Furthermore, the project allowed our team to bring in concepts from several other courses to help effectively communicate our position and recommendations. This was a larger group project than my first team project I presented, and therefore it required delegation of tasks to complete efficiently. We chose to divide and conquer based on individual strengths so that we could complete this project to its highest quality. And then this case focused on a massive international organization. The project required thinking on a large global scale in terms of its recommendations and analysis. All right, project 5. This was my strategic plan, which was completed at the end of winter 2020 semester for BUS 590 Strategic Management under Dr. Michael Crum. This strategic plan was unique in that it was being written at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, after NMU had shifted to distance learning, and the recommended strategies were based on how Royal Caribbean International could strategically re-enter the market after the cruising ban is lifted. The process was completed similarly to the previous project, and my recommendations were based off analysis, and it concluded that to successfully re-enter the market after an undetermined amount of time following the cruising ban, Royal Caribbean should form strong strategic alliances with their competitors, engage in tacit collusion to aid with pricing, and despite not wanting to spend money, I recommended that they continue investing in product research and development, as that was a core part of their current strategy. This project was unique in that it was, a post-COVID-19 outbreak analysis of a global corporation in the vacation industry. The plan meets requirements for critical thinking, ethical decision-making, and has a global perspective. To form strategic alternatives and recommendations, I had to analyze with considerations of the ethical impacts that the cruising world could have on the entire nation and the globe during a global health crisis. And so that was a really big part of this project, was thinking about the implications of a company and how they could actually impact the world during a health crisis. All right, this is my final project, and Dr. Crum might be happy to hear that his strategic plan was not my largest project. This project actually was, but this was also a group project. So this was my last project. It was completed under Dr. Stacy Boyer Davis for BUS 580 Managerial Accounting. Peter White Public Library, our local library here in Marquette, Michigan, was struggling to update their budget for the upcoming fiscal year due to the unknown impacts of COVID-19. Our assignment was to complete a multiple scenario revenue budget and also suggest and implement several new revenue streams for the library due to its current and unknown length of closure to patrons. We made several recommendations based on our analysis, including asking for continued support from state legislators. We pitched assisting the Friends of Peter White Public Library volunteer group in opening an online used bookstore, a Zoomathon, and we pitched new services to surrounding townships, as the Peter White Public Library is really a hub for many townships, not just Marquette. This project meets the objectives for critical thinking, effective communication, and collaborative team performance. We had to critically think about this company and this library and how we could bring in new revenue streams, even though they were not having any patrons enter the library. Typically, the library would make most of their money based on foot traffic. So coming up with alternatives took a lot of creative thinking. We had multiple scenario budgeting, anyone who's done anything with accounting knows that it can be very number heavy. So we had to be able to take all of those numbers and all of the information that we absorbed, and we had to be able to lay it out in easy to read words so that the reader could follow along. And then finally, this met the objective for collaborative team performance. This was by far the largest project I worked on and with the most amount of people. So it was great to be able to divide the work up amongst several peers. However, there was several challenges with this remote team, as this was COVID-19. So all of our communications and all of our work had to be done remotely and through the computer. So we had to navigate those challenges. And as far as program reflection, I'm extremely thankful for this program and everything that it did for me. Like Kane, my background is in medicine and healthcare. And so coming into this program was a little daunting, and I've been extremely pleased with my peers and my professors and how much support everyone has given me. And I hope that continues with the program, because it's just a great group of people who always stepped up and helped when I needed it. And I definitely appreciated that. And thank you very much. And now is time for questions.
Well, good job, Emily. I really like your presentation and the aesthetics of the slides and the visuals that you used. One thing about like Peters White, did they like take from your recommendations, like having doing like Zoom-a-thon and improving their like online services? Do you know if they took your recommendation and actually implemented it?
So I'm not entirely sure. This project was just over this last summer. And so we did actually present to 2 board members at the library. And at the end, they did seem very fond of a couple of our ideas, but I'm not sure if they have implemented them. I do know that the library was able to open back up to some foot traffic now, so that may have impacted their decision whether to implement some of these recommendations. But I do think the Friends of Peter White Public Library digitizing that store was something that they expressed a lot of interest in, because it could be used now, it could be used when everything's wide open, and also it could be a revenue stream in case we have another shutdown. So not entirely.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So Emily, what's next in terms of career?
So
You have a very diverse background, and I'm really interested in hearing what your next move is.
thank you. So I work for a company right now, and it's kind of an interesting story. I had some help from Dr. Jess Thompson with this too. Over the last month, the company that I work for, I recognized a need within their management team, and I pitched myself for a position. So I wrote up a formal proposal for a new position, and Jess helped me with that and helped me revise it and polish it. And I turned it in, and that has turned into a real job offer. We're just still in the time of negotiation, so nothing's official yet, so I can't really announce anything quite yet, but hopefully moving forward.
Do we have any other questions or feedback for Emily Hawkins?
How long do you think Royal Caribbean, right?
Yes.
Can they survive a year of this or not?
Well, I've thought about this since I wrote that strategic plan, because when I wrote that plan, I honestly didn't think this would have gone on as long as it did. They do have other endeavors, not just cruising. So they have some other things. They have like a train service, and then they do a bunch of excursions. And so if they capitalize on that and maybe expand some of those other, smaller scale vacation things, maybe they can survive. I have a cruise booked with them that I've had to keep postponing, so I'm hoping they survive. But this is the cruising industry, I could argue, would probably be the most significantly hit vacation industry from COVID-19. So Not
I
sure.
mean, they already had to deal with issues. Is it the Nevada? No, several years ago, they've had some problems with infectious diseases on board. So,
Yep. Yeah, that is always a big concern on the cruise ships. And obviously this is on a totally different scale. So all I know right now is they keep pushing back their deadline for the cruising ban, and there doesn't seem to be an end in sight yet.
Great question, Brian. I agree that norovirus is scary.
Mhm.
Can we have a round of applause for Emily Hawkins? And while we're applauding Emily, I have some exciting news. I spoke with Andrea last week. 2 of the group's ideas are being explored by the board, one being the virtual store that you indicated, and the other being the non-resident fee that's being charged for service. So thanks to all of you, the library is improving their revenue stream. So job well done.
Awesome. That is great news. Thank you for the update.
You're welcome. All right. All right, and finally, last but certainly not least, Jesse Sherman. Jesse, our Veteran of the Year, was born downstate in Alpena and raised on an apple farm in Hubbard Lake, Michigan. He graduated from Rapid River High School in 2002, joined the U.S. Marine Corps as an infantryman in 2002, deployed twice in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2004 and then 2005 to 2006. He earned the Purple Heart Award in 2004 and discharged at the rank of sergeant in 2006. Thank you so much for your service, Jesse. He earned a BA in English Practical Writing in 2012 from Western Michigan, obtained a certificate in Advanced Brewing Theory in 2015. He's happily married to Elizabeth Liz for nearly 10 years and a proud parent of his 3 children, Jackson, Mallory, and Oliver. Recently hired by Michigan Veteran Affairs Agency as the Upper Peninsula's Senior Veteran Community Engagement Officer. Can we please welcome Jesse to the virtual podium? Jesse?
Thank you, Dr. Stacy. See if I can get my permissions and then I can share my screen.
You're now a co-host.
Is that good for everyone? Okay, thank you. As Dr. Stacy mentioned, my name's Jesse Sherman, and this is my portfolio presentation for the MBA program. The agenda for my presentation is that I'll start by introducing my portfolio and the projects therein. Then I'll take some time to reflect on each of the projects and give a summary of each. Then I'll conclude with some remarks and give time for a Q&A. My portfolio is a collection of projects that I really am very proud of and that really express what I was able to accomplish here during my time in the MBA program. And throughout my portfolio presentation, I hope it's apparent to you all the level of pride that I took and just the sense of accomplishment that I have in completing this project. My portfolio includes 3 examples of original work and 2 pieces of collaborative group work. And listed below is the order of these projects. We have the Peter White Public Library revenue budgeting with COVID-19 uncertainty, strategic plan of Costco Wholesale Corporation, and Aurora Textile Company, a capital budgeting project case study. Big data analytics in Major League Baseball and the managerial implications. And project management in the digital age, what managers need to know. The Peter White Public Library revenue budgeting with COVID-19 uncertainty. This is a review of the entire Peter White Public Library's revenue budget. Line by line, our group went through and had to really get to know the company inside and out. And we needed to help them to generate a new fiscal year budget. And due to the fact that COVID-19 had impacted many of their revenue streams, they did really appreciate the research and the effort that we put into generating a couple of different budgets based on a couple of different scenarios. So our group decided to report on two different scenarios. One scenario was when COVID-19 restrictions would be slowly lifted and eased back into full operation. And the other scenario was more of an imminent shutdown. The findings that our group was able to report on have some major implications for the 2021 revenue. Some of the suggestions were adopted. As Dr. Stacy mentioned, there were a revisiting of their fees structure and they looked at restructuring their fees for non-residents, switching to electronic library cards. And those are some of the ideas that our team was able to present for them. For this project, there were a few key components. Effective communication was very important. As Emily had mentioned, this was a large group project. We had 8 students involved. There were many different written parts, and that forced a very tight and collaborative performance out of the team, so that we were able to really be on the same page. As this was a summer semester course, it was a truncated semester, which really made it very important that our team didn't waste much time, and that we were able to delegate tasks and then also follow up to make sure that everyone was staying on target. We had to really consider ethical decision making with this project, not only because the public library uses public funds, but mostly because we had to take into account what type of health and safety restrictions that were going to be imposed by COVID-19, and how we can effectively increase and improve the revenue budget for fiscal year 2021 while keeping in mind all of these ethical decisions. And then critical thinking was a pretty important aspect of this project. Some of the recommendations that we made, I think, required us to be creative and think a little bit outside of the box. Most of us didn't have much knowledge of Peter White Public Library, but I think by the end of it, we were all pretty well aware of its position in our community and how it's able to operate through the use of public funding and through all of the support that it gets from the community and through the people who actually come in and utilize its services. So when we were able to stop and think about it in a critical manner, we were able to come up with some very attractive recommendations that Peter White Public Library did follow up on. For my strategic plan on Costco Wholesale Corporation, I set out to develop a strategic plan that was very comprehensive. I spent quite a bit of time trying to create a literature review of all the relevant industry resources and that I could make light of and find. So when I considered what can I suggest for Costco, one of the things that I had to start with is by doing a thorough industry analysis by looking at the industry attractiveness and looking at Costco's internal and external analysis. You know, internally, what are their strengths and weaknesses? What kind of things do they do well? And externally, you know, what opportunities and threats might they be facing? And after I was pretty significantly informed by a lot of different sources, I developed 3 different strategic alternatives that I thought would be good for them to consider. One of the strategic alternatives that I suggested was that the company would consider trying to acquire or merge with another large company similar to theirs. I looked at Kroger, the Kroger company, and although they're both pretty similar in size, they also have very different portfolios. And so I thought that the two would be very complementary. My second recommendation was that I thought Costco could really benefit if they tried to acquire eBay, eBay Inc., because eBay has long been known for its digital marketing and its electronic retail. What a lot of people may not know is that eBay also is very environmentally conscious, and considering their corporate social responsibility, one of the highlights of that company is their the way that they conduct their business is always mindful of its impact on the environment and upon its sustainability. Whereas whereas Costco is not necessarily known for its environmental awareness or precautions that it tries to put into its sustainability. It is actually known more for its human resources practices as being some of the best in the industry. So what I figured would be a perfect marriage between human resources, higher practices, and also with eBay's environmentally conscious practices, those two could really benefit from each other. And last, I looked at an overall restructure and realignment for Costco to consider more retail in the electronic arena, because they do have a very established physical presence. However, what I see in the future is that they may be very limited as far as electronic retail and growth if they don't try to get on and start building momentum with that sooner than later. Next is an Aurora Textile Company. It is a capital budgeting project case study. This case study really was an exercise in deciding upon a replacement project. In order to arrive at my recommendation on whether or not to accept this replacement project, I really had to spend a lot of time looking at the details of the case study to learn what I could about the textile industry, especially with regard to globalization and a shrinking domestic industry. So I was able to bring together the information provided in the report and conduct a series of ratio analyses, including liquidity, solvency, profitability, activity, and also utilizing the weighted average cost of capital. This approach really helped me to develop further insight to the corporate and global finance methods and the trends regarding capital budgeting projects. I ultimately decided it would be beneficial for this company to accept the replacement project. I was able to determine the project would have a net present value of about $7.5 million and an internal rate of return of a little over 20%. The key components of this project, I'd like to highlight critical thinking. It took a careful review of this industry that I'm not very familiar with. The data given in this case study did help inform much of the report, along with the financial techniques I was able to learn throughout my education here. The global perspectives was another key aspect. Textiles is an industry that has grown internationally. There's increasing global competition, and domestic companies have had a hard time competing. And according to this case study, it was a very tough decision for this company deciding on whether or not they wanted to replace a piece of machinery, of equipment here at their company in the United States, with the idea that their company may not be profitable moving forward. So it took a keen analysis to be able to decide if in fact it made sense to replace that project, the equipment, and do the replacement project. The effective communication, I thought, was a pretty relevant part of this project. When you're talking about analyzing industry that most people aren't familiar with, and also presenting that material in a way that makes sense, it really was a challenge to incorporate the findings that I had discovered in a way that would be easily understood by an audience. So I thought this was a great learning experience for me. My next project was titled Big Data Analytics in Major League Baseball and the Managerial Implications thereof. In this project, I set out to present the key elements surrounding the use of big data analytics in Major League Baseball. I spent a good deal of my initial time creating a literature review, a comprehensive as I could, drawing from many sources, including the organizations within the Major League Baseball, along with um, a couple of very important case studies and other research involving the use of big data and how its use has continued to grow throughout this particular sporting industry. After this comprehensive review and my analysis, I determined that big data analytics can be used to make actionable inferences upon which these can create a temporary competitive advantage for the organization. The key components of this project involved ethical decision making, because this part of the main aspect of this research paper was dealing with big data analytics, and there is a very touchy ethical side to that field of study. We need to be very cognizant of how we use that data and how it's stored, and how it's collected. And that I became very informed on several of these aspects while conducting the research. I learned globally that professional baseball activities aren't just localized here to the United States. It's really a growing international industry. Many different countries supply baseball players to the United States, and a lot of these different nations have minor league clubs and professional ball clubs that are underneath the major league umbrella. And some of these really have taken the action upon themselves to incorporate more of a data analytical approach to their organization and their management. Critical thinking was an important aspect, because this project really really showed that data analytics doesn't just apply to the field of sports, as I was really focused on, but just inside the field, there are several different applications that have transpired. Initially, teams wanted to find out how to win games, but what came about was by incorporating a methodological approach to using big data analytics. It's also informed several other areas, like athletic training, sports therapy, and also just a plethora of other consumer fitness devices that are now really more mainstream than they have been just a few years ago. Effective communication was also important here, because I had to understand that not everybody shares the same love of baseball that I do. And because of that, a lot of the acronyms and abbreviations had to be clear and easily conveyed. So that was a part that I found challenging, but also very rewarding. And finally, my last project that I would like to share is about project management in the digital age and what managers need to know. This was also a group effort which explored project management and its managerial implications. Now, the trends which we're all aware of here that describe what technology is doing in this day and age. What we call the digital age is what we're living in now, and technology, the speed and growth of it has really been something that has made a profound impact on my understanding of how managers and organizations are able to succeed, and how they're able to be successful in pursuing different manager projects. So the trends really show that managers are increasingly important to project and organizational success. Managers who are able to utilize managerial tools that they have available really make themselves an asset. Project management technology, such as management information software, project management techniques, these things are increasingly important, and they're tools that managers can use to make themselves and their companies more successful. So some key components of this project were to keep in mind global perspectives involved, that there are several different aspects that go global when you're talking about project management in this digital age, because globalization has been increasingly important for businesses who are operating not just domestically but also internationally. When I looked at the textiles industry, the domestic market is impacted by what's happening globally, and so too we can see that the effects of globalization and specialization in business have really led to making the manager's job much more pivotal than it has been in the past. I also relied on collaborative team performance for this project. I had a great group. I think that we were very well in tune with each other and each other's um, the way that we were approaching this project. Although sometimes we're in different directions, we always were able to collaborate with timelines and clearly expressed tasks. And the writing, I think, was as seamless as it can be when you're having multiple people writing one report. Ethical decision making also becomes important because in what can managers use to become uh, more successful or make themselves a bigger part of their organization that drives organizational success. And one thing that really stood out was the use of technology can create what is sometimes seen as distance in between people and co-workers. So the ability for managers to not only utilize this management software and techniques, but also to do it in a way that is very understanding and helpful of their coworkers was a key component. The critical thinking came to be important because we decided that we wanted to find how exactly can managers be more successful, or what can they do to improve the organization. So when we were conducting this report, we kept in mind we need to find ways that, and the implications of this project management as far as managers in the digital age. And the effective communication really was driven by our group work, and we were able to create a report that was succinct but also very in depth. I think it could be something that other managers would think is helpful. And the presentation that we did, myself and two other group contributors, I really enjoyed that. I thought it was one of the better group projects that I was involved in. So my concluding remarks is that I'd just like to express some gratitude for everybody involved here in the MBA program at NMU. Thank you all for your time here. I'd like to take a moment and congratulate my fellow MBA cohort. This has truly been an honor for me, and I will cherish it. Please feel free to interact with any questions or comments that you may have.
Well, good job, Jess. Congratulations. So I'm really interested about like your project regarding like Major League Baseball and application of analytics. So did you like in this project like predict, for example, like how coaches could select like players based on their batting average, their run, like home runs, or are you predicting like more like the wins, like how many wins like the team would win and just base their strategy accordingly? I'm really interested about like this project. Did you like do more of like analytics for like selecting like prospect players, or it's more like for teams and predicting wins?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Well, one thing that really came about when I was researching this is, well, how do organizations use this the information and the data that they can get from their big data analytics. So what it comes down to is that they actually created a new way of evaluating baseball activities, and their acronym for it is wins above replacement. So they were able to statistically evaluate player activities in order to rank one person next to another. And when you're able to, traditionally, major league scouts, talent observers, managers, they would go off of what's called a gut feel and the eye check and say, well, that guy can play baseball, or he doesn't have the look. And that was valuable and it did work. But however, what organizations did find were when they were able to take away some of these confounding variables, some things that don't necessarily always translate into success. When they were able to do that, they were able to look at what things contribute to baseball activities and be able to then evaluate that as compared to other baseball players. And when they were able to find differences there, they may find that they're underpaying somebody, or they may find that somebody is undervalued and they're willing to pay more for that player. So what they're able to do is really inform their organizational strategy by simply evaluating baseball activities on numerical level.
Yeah, absolutely. Like watching like Moneyball, like for the movie of Brad Pitt, and how actually like the like leverage the underdogs based on like some like measurements, like the batting average, the pitching, and just getting like the team to like the playoffs based on analytics. So this was, yeah, the same thing. Yeah, good job, Jess. Congratulations.
Just a couple comments, if I may. First of all, Jesse, thank you so much for your service. We all appreciate it. So thank you so much. I too was fascinated by the baseball thing because I'm a hockey nut. And but I see the same thing with data analytics, and I find it fascinating. And I kept thinking, Ahmed, all about Moneyball and how that was kind of revolutionary. And so we will see it more and more with many things. The other thing I didn't hear at the beginning, and I apologize if I missed it, what class did you do the project management in the digital age?
Dean Johnson, for that class, it was Dr. Madison Gaffeson in Management Information Technology.
Thank you. I missed what class it was, and that also sounded fascinating. So I appreciate you sharing that, and thank you again.
And a shout out to Allie for her work on that project as well. I thought it was great.
Do we have any additional questions or feedback for Jesse? Virtual round of applause. We have a new, very short segment for the MBA portfolio presentations. And what it is the graduate candidates are going to offer their final thoughts for both current and future MBAers, because we do have a few here in this audience. So first, can we have Michelle, followed by Kane, followed by Emily, and then followed by Jesse?
All right. So first, I just want to thank all of the faculty and peers here or not here for your support. Carol, like you said, everyone has been along this journey with us, and it means so much for us to be able to do this and still maintain all the things that are going on in our lives. So it took a lot of support. So just really want to say thank you for that. And also congratulate my peers, Emily, Kane, and Jesse. I've worked with you all at one point or another in the program. So congratulations to you guys as well. So for me, following through with my decision to enroll in the MBA program has been really challenging, but by far rewarding. And I know it will continue to be rewarding, hopefully more rewarding going into the future. I believe this program is particularly rewarding when you can combine it with real world experiences, the concepts that are studied. So for me, I really enjoyed being able to start my career at the same time. Time-wise, it was more challenging, but I think I got more out of the program by being able to do that. It takes a lot of dedication to do this. So everyone here who's listening that is still going, like Dr. Stacy says, keep going, keep going. It goes by really quick. It really does. Take the time to build relationships with the faculty and your classmates. You have to remember it's not just about what you know, but also who you know. And so I put it wasn't just about what I learned in the program, but a lot about who I met and the connections that I made that I know I'm going to take with me into my future. And I know that the classmates and faculty here will continually be a resource for me for very much time. I would say to think of every project or assignment as an opportunity to expand your knowledge on a topic or an industry, because I think as we're out of the classroom setting and in the real world setting, these opportunities are going to be harder to come by, where we can't just go study how does COVID-19 impact all these industries. We're not going to have as many of those opportunities. We're going to be really busy. So for those that are still in the program, even though it's like, oh my gosh, I got to come home and get on the computer, try to remember that it's kind of cool that we actually get the opportunity to do that. So again, just overall really thankful for my time with Northern, my 7 years with this university. And I really know I'm going to miss this. This became a part of my life, and I really know that I'm going to miss this part of my routine. But I am very excited to start my career in the store. I've got a lot of work to do, so I'll be switching my focus towards that, and I'm very excited. So again, thank you.
Kane?
You said first to the students, and what was the other one?
To the current and or the potential MBAers that might join the program.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, no, first I want to thank everybody that's here today. Thank you for your time and taking your time out of your day to listen to us. And congratulations to Jesse, Michelle, and Emily. It's been a lot. It's a lot to handle. Like Michelle just said, I'm gonna miss it, honestly. Coming home and doing homework, yeah, it's not fun, but as long as you make it work for you. When I started the program, I asked a few professors what I could do to better myself in the program, and they said, make it work for you. So I did. I took the opportunity and took every project, and if I wanted to know something more about a company or a subject, I wanted to expand my knowledge on that. And I'm one of those people that if somebody asks me a question, I'm going to find an answer before they can even think of anything else. I like knowledge. I have a lot of useless things between my ears, but anyways, it's good to know those things. And over the past almost 2 years, year and a half, whenever I had started, but I've had so much knowledge. I've learned so much from everybody. And then remarks to the new and upcoming students: don't give up. It's hard. I work full time through school, and I'm on call at the hospital. So I come home and I get to eat and go back to the hospital. Don't give up. If it's, late nights, long weekends, you're going to sacrifice your time with your family, your friends. A little easier now that COVID's around. If you can work from home, I totally, would recommend doing that. It's awe-inspiring to see everybody that's here today, and just keep on keeping on. Life's a garden, dig it. That's how I feel. Like, you just got to keep going, and that's how, that's all I have to say. And again, thank you all for your time.
Okay. Yes, to reiterate, thank you everyone for being here, family, friends, and everyone who will maybe watch this recording later. But I have a couple little pieces of advice for either current students or prospective students. Get to know your peers. Not only can they be a helpful support system as you inevitably balance a busy life of work and school and family, but they can also open your mind to a new way of thinking. I can't count the amount of times that my perspective was changed by the thoughts and ideas of others while working on projects or during whole class discussions. And also, don't be afraid to speak up and say what you think, because you might have that same impact on someone else. My second piece of advice, if you're in Dr. Thompson's communications class, it's I'm going to be saying the same thing, but take advantage of opportunities to work individually on projects. There's advantages and disadvantages to working in as an individual or in group work, but keep in mind, for this portfolio, you need to have at least 3 quality individual projects that go into this graduation portfolio. That was probably the most challenging thing for me putting together this portfolio, is that a lot of my individual projects were in the beginning of my time in the program, and I felt like most of my more quality work was in the second half of my program, which tend to be a lot more group projects. So take advantage of those individual opportunities.
I would like to just start with offering a little bit of advice or for fellow and future MBA students. My advice is to take pride in everything that you do. Look for ways to enhance your abilities and broaden your perspectives. Make friends, seek guidance, and find the opportunities that are right for you. Control what you can and figure out the rest as you go along. And I really think that sums up a lot of my sentiments. But I would like to say that every time that the things got tough for me, and I like everyone says, coming home and doing extra work, and for me, all I had to think about was my kids, and that was enough motivation for me to try to do the best job I could, because I realized that everything I do is an example for them, and I wanted to give them something to be proud of. And in doing so, I became very proud of my own achievements as well.
Thank you so much. Congratulations to our graduate candidates once again. We are so very proud of your accomplishments and know that you will represent Northern well. You will always be Wildcats. Thank you so much, everybody, for your attendance today. We appreciate your support of graduate programs in the College of Business. Happy holidays to you and yours. Stay safe, healthy, and well. Thanks again so very much, everybody. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.